You have spoken about the over 17,500 individuals, excuse me, who applied to come to Canada that had their foreign criminal convictions forgiven. Do you know, or do we know of how many of them committed violent crimes?
You talked about particular colleges. I believe you said the problem was overwhelmingly concentrated with 4 colleges. Could you go into that more?
I have them here. I thought you'd ask me.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Via video conference, we have Mr. Routley, Domestic Policy Coordinator, MacDonald Laurier Institute. Here in the room, we have Dr. Yvonne Sue, Professor at York University, and for the Lawyers of Secure Immigration, we have Mr. Richard Kurland, a lawyer and policy analyst. A warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses for appearing before us today. Mr. Kurland, I'd like to start with you. One of the primary responsibilities, of course, of any government is to ensure the safety and security of the citizens and indeed of all the people, law-abiding people that live in our country. You have spoken about the over 17,500 individuals, excuse me, who applied to come to Canada that had their foreign criminal convictions forgiven. Do you know, or do we know of how many of them committed violent crimes?
The data is the problem. Government has it, government doesn't share it. What is shared is usually a year or two out of date, making analysis practically impossible for advocates and folks who intend to criticize. Historically, if you have that breakdown, violent crimes that include damage to the person as well as the property typically run at 20-25%.
Do you have a handle on? Would we know what countries most foreign criminal convictions are forgiven from?
No, and every country produces criminals, like it or not.
But of those 17,500 plus, we have no transparency on that either.
Well, yes. What you look for there is something that is beyond proportionate. So if you know that most people are coming from country A to Canada, well, reasonably, one would expect that same proportion to apply in bad people coming to Canada from that country.
There appears to be a two-tiered system for forgiving foreign criminals. The less serious offenses, we're told, are reviewed by RCC officers with the right authority, and the more serious cases are reviewed by the Minister of Immigration personally.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions on that front. Are you aware of any cases that were reviewed by the Minister personally?
Oh, yes. Over a quarter century, that experience has come to light. The minister has a challenging position, but a good position. The minister can access our intelligence information to get to the root. Is that crime a politically motivated crime in terms of foreign government enforcement? Did that foreign government create, quote unquote, a criminal for their domestic purposes? Ministers can resolve that. But ultimately, it is the minister who takes responsibility for protecting the public.
Yeah, I find it difficult to believe that the minister, to ascertain why the minister would have an authority over and above what their officials, the advice they would be getting from their officials, the IRCC, for example, in order to make a decision like that. Most Canadians, I would argue, I'm sure many would expect that people coming to the country don't have criminal records, period. Now, I understand some of them may be frivolous, depending on, coming from a country that doesn't have a judicial system on par with Canada, but it is certainly very, very concerning. And living in a community where I've seen criminals come and still be in our community and walk the streets, threatening people on a daily basis, it is a very, very concerning fact.
And correct, because that's not my place to say correct, but universities have tenure. Public servants don't enjoy that luxury. And a public servant that signs off on one of these criminality cases is betting the pension.
Let me switch gears for a moment. You've also spoken about the many different software companies that were working on IRCC's e-filing system. How many?
E-files?
E-filing system.
Oh, that. Oh, my goodness. it's not enough for the public servants. You've got to lock in the contracts to the private sector.
Okay.
A very significant, important aspect.
I believe you said about 150 in your,
Minimum,
in
yes.
your in the YouTube clip
Yeah.
that I saw. Were these companies all working together, or were they communicating with each other at all?
That has been the number one problem for close to 35 years of the IT delivery system at IRCC. You ended up with 150 silos. Contractors not working together, all designing just one part of the elephant, not considering the whole.
Well, we certainly know the immigration system, at least over the last 10, 11 years, has been a mess with 7 immigration ministers in the last 10 years. So what are some of the common problems applicants are experiencing when trying to file their documents?
Well,
All of this work that's been done with this new system.
1 minute.
and I'll do it in less. It's basic, fundamental consumer protection failure. The absence of clear and consistent, simple instructions for the most basic immigration tasks of filing, and repetitive, duplicative services. I apply for a visitor visa. Now I want to apply for something else. I have to redo 50 questions instead of, like CRA does, have one file, my file, and I add or modify pre-existing information to get the next level of service. So it's duplicative effort, waste of government money, and people will make mistakes because they don't realize they gave an answer 15 years ago that has different information than today. They end up with an immigration problem in the result.
Thank you, Mr. Kurland, and thank you, Mr. Menegaka.
You talked about particular colleges. I believe you said the problem was overwhelmingly concentrated with 4 colleges. Could you go into that more?
Have them here. I thought you'd ask me. So we have Seneca Polytechnic. They had 1,540. Niagara College, Canada, 1,310. Conestoga College, 1,090.
Sorry to interrupt, but just for context, the numbers that you're giving relate to?
The number of asylum claims.
Okay, right, just for the record.
Yes. And then Cape Breton University. So these are all over 1,000. And the thing that's clear for me is this is all in the IRB data, in the IRCC data. Like, it didn't take me very long to look through the Excel sheets. And then the 3 that were 100% asylum rates. So they took in 10, and there were 10 asylum applications that same year. So those 3 are Institute of Technology and Development of Canada, the Canadian Technology College, and DEA Canada College. So for me, when you see those numbers and you do the rates for asylum, it's very clear that something is happening at those institutions where either the students are being coached or they're encouraged or something is happening. So for me, it's very obvious that we should investigate them, right? There should be conversations, and we should not just say that it's a big problem. There's 650 institutions that allow for international students, right? And we're saying there's just these 7 that are causing a lot of problems. So why are we not just going after these 7? Why are we painting international students with the same brush that, they're bad? So I think there's been a lot of demonization.